All right, Michael, you got a hand for us here?
Sure, this is Vegas. It's a holiday weekend, which is kind of a factor in here. This is at
Yep.
the South Point, and it's a 2-3 $600 cap game, which often plays bigger than the 3-5 $1,500 game. So it can be a good game.
Yep. You're the ZZZXY guy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. from the if you take the 15 from LA to Vegas, the last exit in Nevada. All right, so South Point 2-3 600 cap, okay?
Okay, it's playing nine-handed. And I of course bought in for 600. The effective stack though is V1. It's multiple player. V1 with 460, and then the V2 has like 550. So the effective stack is 460.
Okay.
Okay, so under the gun plus one raises to 17, which is sort of normal.
Okay.
And I'm in the cutoff with pocket deuces.
To 17, that's normal, huh? Like
Yeah,
that big. I mean, I
15,
see it. Yeah, for sure.
12, 15, 17. So I'm going to cut off with pocket deuces, deuce of hearts, deuce of clubs.
Okay.
So I just call.
Okay.
The button calls, the big
Mm-hmm.
blind calls, and
Okay.
so the pot is now $70.
Okay, so just one quick thing about pre-flop here. So the guy who's opening for the raise plus one is the one that's got 460. Is that right?
No, the big blind is 460.
The guy that opened from plus one has 550. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So when we look at like 15 times, we're making 15 to 20 times the raise size with small pocket pairs. We're talking about looking at the 17. So it's like, are you $300 to $350 deep to make a call for pure set mining possibilities? And you are. Now, we think about preflop a little bit differently these days, but hey, I mean, if there's ever the definition of a small pocket pair, deuce is that definition. Now, some would say that this might just be a fold in the cutoff, and the closer that you are, the more far you are away from the button and the more squeeze happy the game is, the more you want to just fold the small pair because you can get squeezed. Some would make the argument that it's not profitable even getting 30 times. I don't think the games are that bad. I think you probably don't have that much of a flat calling range in the cutoff against a plus 1 to 17, but I don't have an issue with it. But I just wanted to run down the math because both you, obviously, and the guy that opens has to be, probably somewhere around at least, say, 340 to 350. I mean, if you want to go down with the 15x, just so that everyone understands. Okay, so $70 pot.
Okay.
Yep.
So the flop comes six of clubs, five of diamonds, deuce of spades.
Six of clubs, five of diamonds, deuce of spades. You flop bottom set.
I flop bottom set.
Yep.
So big blind checks. Under the gun, the original raiser checks.
Okay.
And I bet 25.
Okay. So kind of on the small side, which I think is actually, here's the thing about, so if the board was like queen five deuce or like paint five deuce, I actually could get on board with a much larger bet because you're just going to get the top pairs to call. But here, you've got deuce deuce. I mean, there's some flush draws. Well, actually, there's no flush draw out there, right? 6-5 deuce rainbow. It just doesn't really fare to hit people all that hard. So I don't really mind actually making a that small of a bet here. I think you sort of want to get the action. So I just hope that if it was a little bit of a different board, or say it was Jack 9 deuce with a 2 flush, that your default isn't always going to be 25 here. That it's board texture related.
That's what I thought, but then it got strange. Okay, so the button folds.
Okay.
The big blind raises to 80.
Okay.
And under the gun plus one, snap calls.
All right. So what do you think? We'll go over what we think the big blind could have. What do you think that plus one might have here? Who check calls the check raise?
Well, if he had opened with an overpair or a strong hand on this board, I mean, two big overs, I would think he would bet himself.
Right. And the reason why I bring that up is because usually at the small stakes, that is the case. But on a rainbow board like this, I think most of the time, even though it might be rare, you'll probably find that he might have an overpair here. I mean, because what else can he possibly call the check raise with cold? unless he's calling with like ace 4, ace 3, something like that. I mean, he can't really have ace king, right?
No, I wouldn't think so.
Or he shouldn't, right? I mean, you would think you would bet off with like 7, 8. So that's what I would think. Now, with that being said, now it's back obviously over to you. Now, the big blind is definitely getting a price pre-flop, but he could have, he might have a 3-4 suited, but he could also have 6-5 for 2-pair. You sometimes could be, I mean, these are the things you lose to, overset. But I think that, because I saw that you were in the video, and you're an older guy. I think we talked about this, or older, late 50s or something like that. I think if you 3-bet the check raise after betting really small in the flop, you just reek of a lot of strength. And then if this guy from +1 is playing an overpair cautiously, you just give him an excuse to fold. So I think with your image, I call here. And then I hope it's a break and it gets checked to you, and then you can start to get some more value here.
Well, anyway, I called. So the pot is now 310.
And by the way, if you wanted to do the opposite of that, then you would 3-bet 7-8 suited here. If you started a bet with 7-8 suited and it was going to look so strong with your image, you might actually consider 3-betting the check raise with 7-8 suited. That's a little bit of a live hack with unbalance. But okay, so 310. Okay.
Okay, so the turn is a 10 of spades. Big blind immediately jams for his remaining $363.
So over the size of the pot.
Over the size of the pot, and under the
Yep.
+1 snap calls.
See, I can't really, I'm not scared of +1 really here. I think that the way that this hand went down, +1 here can have like aces or kings. So it's really kind of a question, because what else is there? I mean, that's what I keep saying, unless he's like sandbagging like a set of 6s. But that's just going to be sort of a cooler here. So really it just comes down to, okay, like, what about this big blind here? And and here's the thing, I don't think, and you're going to be getting about 363 in a call. I know, and you guys have a little bit of money behind, right? Is that right? Like, if you call, how much do you and the +1 guy have behind here?
Oh, he would have 100. He would have 90
$100
more. That's 90 more.
Yeah, I think I'd probably just jam if I'm you here. I just think that I'm not scared of +1 here. I think he's played I have not looked at the chat here, by the way. It was always fun. I'm not scared of +1, the pre-flop raiser. And I think, yeah, you've got deuce here. And now you do lose to 16 combos of 3-4. I get that. I don't know how wide people have 3-4 off, but what about all the other hands that this guy might have connected with, like 2-pair, 6-5? Obviously, you block some of the 2-pair with your deuce, but I can't just fold bottom set to the big blind. Plus, you're getting an overlay from the pot because it looks like +1 has an overpair here. So I'm not saying it's a snap call, but in these situations, this is not a 3 smooth straight. I always talk about, like, if you get a board like 6-5-4 and you've got bottom set for pocket 4s, it starts to get hard when there's so many straight combos here. This one's better though because there's only 3-4. I mean, obviously you can get overset and lose to 3-4 because the guy's wide, but that would be my thinking here. And I'm extra positive about the call because you're getting an overlay from +1, who I think has an overpair.
Bart, I wish I would have thought that way, but I was looking at the big blind. I was looking at basically the big blind could logically have the 4-3. Obviously, +1 is not going to have 4-3. But
right.
It was more the speed of their now these are tourists. I didn't know anything about them.
Oh, that makes me want to call even more, Michael.
I know.
That makes me want to, if they're tourists and you're a Vegas guy, this is what the spot you drool over, right? You Vegas guys.
Oh, I slobbered on this one. I just couldn't see how the big blind could play that way without having the 4-3 or being overset. And then if someone snap calls on him, I folded.
All right. Well, Hero folds. Now, somebody in the live chat said, is it possible? Here, there's a couple of things so Hero folds. I want to get the result here in a second. There's a couple things going on here. John W., of course, CLP subscriber, said, we still think +1 has an overpair. That would be ridiculous. Again, Michael says that these guys are tourists. Now, with that being said, though, I will say that would surprise me if a Taurus, quote unquote, would actually play an overpair in this way, in the sense that they're checking. So there's a lot of competing information going on here in this hand. You know what I mean? But you ended up making the fold. It's kind of a, some people agree with you. I don't, like I said, I don't think it's a snap call, but I think that you're getting enough of an overlay in the pot here. Now, again, you do have extra money, a little bit of extra money on the side here between you and the +1 guy. I find it very, very hard to believe that you are behind the +1 guy, which means that you'd actually get, even if you're behind to the big blind, you're going to get a little bit of money on the side. So you folded, and what ended up happening here?
I hate to say this. The big blind had 6-5 suited for a flop 2 pair,
Yep.
and the under the gun opened with 8-7 of spades. So he had
Wow, okay.
a straight draw on the
Turn to
flop,
spade draw. Yep.
and then picked up the flush draw on the turn.
Yep. Yep. And then did it brick out?
It bricked out.
Yeah. You actually have to dodge a lot of, I mean, obviously the play is the call once you know, but I'm just saying that you actually have to dodge a fair amount of cards here, because the dude's got a 13 out draw, and then you've got to dodge another, because it's not counting the 6 and the 5. You got to dodge another. You got to dodge a lot of cards actually to win that hand. Actually, at the end, I mean, you're more than 50% getting 3-1. But I mean, I didn't know the result of that. I thought that UTG would have more of an overpair in that particular spot. But I think it all kind of goes back to, if it's close here, and I know that you've heard me say this, Michael. Like, go back to like, what was your sizing on the flop, and is it possible somebody might possibly be making a move at you because you bet so small on the flop, or they could be overvaluing something that might be that you are ahead of, which was obviously the case here. But I would have been absolutely flabbergasted if the under the gun was ahead of you. And the fact that the under the gun has an extra 100 after the big blind shoves, so it goes 363 call. Now this guy's got another 1-9. I'm just going to put it in against him, and I'll get, if I'm behind the big blind against 3-4, I've got some equity, and I'll make 190 from this guy who's doing something weird. Now, obviously, he had a hand that could crack deuce, but it's surprising to me. Like I said, what hands check cold call a check raise? And I said over pairs, and then I would have thought if you're going to raise with 7-8, you would see bet, right? Wouldn't you think?
If he originally raised with it, yes, I would think he would. But he didn't.
Yeah, that's, anyways. Well,
That
live and learn.
kind of, in all honesty, that kind of made me think that he was slow playing a set. More, better chance of slow playing a set.
Yeah, but I mean, here's the thing.
This was probably pretty mugsy, but hey,
Mugsy, like, is that what is Mugsy? Mugs is meetup game. Doesn't that stand for meetup game?
I'm talking about monsters under the bed.
Oh, Mubsy. Oh, I was saying, I thought you said Mugsy. Well, I'll just leave you with this. I would be more, first of all, I don't think you're deep enough to be worried about being overset. Okay. I mean, you're just really not that deep. I mean, yes, you're 200 big blinds effective, but you can see the open size is large. So if you're going to call with deuce, this sort of shallow, you have to go with it. You can't be scared of oversetting. The other thing that I would say, I'll leave you with this too, is that I'm much more concerned about overset if the board came out like king, queen, deuce than I am if it comes out 6-5 deuce when I'm up against the UTG opener. So thanks for the call. That's definitely an interesting one, Michael. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Bart.